Hi, welcome back. Let's continue with where we are left. Um, well, I told you uh, with dominance of industrial production, the working time has increased to its maximum uh, limits, especially when the factories were able to produce as much as they can and have all the have wide market to sell what they have produced. Um, and the working time issue was dealt first time by Karl Marx. And Karl Marx basically deal with it in the way that he describes a typical working time of the worker. Well, he divides that typical working time of the worker into two parts. Um, One part is called necessary labor time. That's the labor time the workers need to perform in order to produce inputs, in order to produce enough income to buy inputs of production. If he produces, for example, this pen with the enough with that labor time, he will be able to buy uh, the basically the plastic and ink of a new pen, as well as the machines he need to use to produce the pen, uh, basically as much as they have degraded while producing this one pen, plus the amount he needs to survive. So in 4 hours, if I can produce enough to buy inputs of my products again for the next day's production, plus buy enough food to survive, plus of course buy enough food also to or anything else as needed to raise a child to replace myself to the adulthood. In that case, I have performed the necessary labor time. And this necessary labor time in today's world, of course, now we might also have certain needs that are social needs, but those social needs might still necessary for survival. So, for example, without a telephone, you might not be able to work, and in that case, you cannot even fulfill your physical needs. So that means now phone is money necessary to buy and maintain a phone line is necessary part of necessary labor time. Um, So, in addition to this necessary labor time, there is also the workers are able to work more than this necessary labor time, and this additional working time is called surplus labor time. And the minimum amount of money the employers need to give to the workers is equal to the value or income produced in this necessary labor time. The rest partially can be given to the workers or to other people, like, for example, the people who get interest from the banks for the money the producers have borrowed, uh, and also the surplus labor time is source of the profits of the um, employer or the producer. So ideally, the workers are tries to do two things. Uh, well, again, let me draw it. So let me do this. First, he wants to increase the daily labor time to higher limits. So he wants to create this type of an increase. So let his worker to work more. He also wants to decrease necessary labor time by increasing the productivity of the worker, which he can do by buying new machines, the capital, but also maybe through increasing the skills of the workers, human capital. But if these two things are not related to each other, ideally the employer wants to do the two things together. So which means the employer wants to increase the labor time to its maximum possible limits. However, in case this increase in labor time is actually decrease the productivity. In that case, the employer might want to keep the working time at the point where the surplus labor time he can get is maximum. I mean, the increase in the labor time won't be dominated by decrease in the surplus labor time because of the decrease in labor productivity. And this effect is actually Marx also mentions it. I mean, previously, when people were working 16 labor hours, the employers were thinking, I mean, by reducing the labor time, workers won't get more productive. But then, when the labor time was reduced by state enforcement, they realized that actually the workers get more productive when they work less than 12 hours. I mean, 16 hours, 10 hours, or maybe less than that. Anyway, this is the analysis of Marx. How basically the employers ideally want to decide on the labor time. Of course, currently we have this service sector, which is also kind of working like order principle. Although there are some restaurants or supermarkets that are open for 24 hours, even there, I mean, the demand can be very low. The number of customers might be very low at certain points and very high at other points. So those workplaces of service sector, they also now want workers at certain periods, and they don't want to employ workers at other periods where the demand, where the number of customers, the work that needs to be done is less. And they also don't want to pay people at the time when there is no work, but they also want to be able to hire more workers when they need actually workers. And that's actually an interesting case. I mean, this change in the preference of the companies currently as a result of rising the service sector. Anyway, mainstream economics basically look to this thing in a different way. I mean, it assumes almost as all workers are able to decide how many hours they want to work, and just for example, I decide I want to work just 6 hours, another person says I want to work 4 hours, and the employers come to us and buy from us the labor time we want to spend. It's not like, I mean, we are faced with the decisions working either 40 hours or 0 hours, basically, or 40 hours with a very high wage, 4 hours per day with a much lower wage, and 0 hours. I mean, that decision is not, at least at the core, it's not there. Well, it's not there in the sense that, I mean, when we are considering how much the amount of hours work decided in the economic system, we are looking to the preferences of the individuals. I mean, the demand doesn't have any role there. I mean, they just buy the amount of hours each person is being to supply at a certain point. But what if the employers want to keep the working hours long? Mainstream economics assumes that the competition between the employers will basically decrease the working hours and make the jobs more favorable more favorable for the workers, and basically closer to the conditions, working conditions, so closer to the conditions as much as possible, closer to the conditions the workers are willing to have. Because if one workplace doesn't do that, then the most productive workers will go to another place, the other place which offered them more favorable conditions. As a result, this competition to get most productive workers will basically reduce improve the working standards, including the flexibility on the working hours. I mean, each person can choose how many hours they can work. Well, one counter argument to this could be actually if the productivity, the work characteristics the characteristic of a work makes the productivity of the workers not that much critical. If already the standard productivity is set by most workers and the fluctuation is very little, and if there are many people to hire anyway, and the productivity will be more or less the same, in that case it might not be worth to look for most productive workers. In that case, you can, at least for particular type of jobs, you might be able to get workers for the lowest possible price, basically. And maybe you can also set the conditions. As long as there are people who want to work at these conditions, then it will be okay for you, because well, there won't be much difference with the guy who wants to work for you and the relatively more productive worker, if the characteristics of the work is set in a way that productivity differences matter very little. Again, so, well, a part of this story is, however, also related to the early and mid 19th century, where a significant number of unskilled workers with productivity level, very low productivity level, very low skills, let me say, not productivity, but less skills, flux to the cities, especially when the machines come to agriculture and the peasants who were in the agricultural areas flow to the cities. And at that time, at the factories were employing skilled labor force, but increasingly, basically, the technology has shifted, and those skills become unnecessary and unskilled. The factories begin to employ unskilled workers, and jobs could be done by those unskilled workers. Even in some cases, 4-year-old children were able to do the factory production. So this might be a factor that might also basically increase the working hours to its maximum limit, because this huge influx of labor force might also make potential competition between the workers, between the employers. Not necessarily. I mean, there is an extreme case of labor, extreme case of source of labor supply coming to the cities. Well, up in 19th century, increasingly some workers, the workers in the mid 19th century, increasingly workers who were already working now and already have worked for half a century, begin to organize, and instead of bargaining with their employers alone, they start to bargain collectively. In some cases, also through the state, basically, tools. And the unions have started, and with some intellectuals also supporting them, this long campaign, the picture of which you have seen at the beginning, of 8-hour working day campaign. So work only 8 hours per day, 8 hours per day for work, 8 hours per day for leisure, and 8 hours per day for sleep. So we will talk more on this 8-hour campaign, which is an interesting campaign in my opinion, and then we will go with the math. We will start with the math part. See you in the next part.